The 1975-76 season for the Boston Bruins was definitely a changing of the guard season. Not only did their top player for the last number of years was traded, Stan Johnson ended up with the team in a late round draft pick. Now, the 75-76 season was the Bruins' 52nd in the NHL. It involved trading Phil Esposito to Rangers while a knee injury limited the great Bobby Orr to 10 games. Now, in the draft that year, of course, Stan Johnson was the big game. He was drafted 86 overall in the fifth round from the Peterborough Petes. Now, he did win the division with a very impressive 48, 15, and 17 record, approximately 8 points ahead of the Sabres. Maple Leafs were strong in division as well, 34, 31, and 15. California 27, 42, and 11. Now, Ratelle led all scorers that year for Boston after the trade with 90 points in 67 games. Johnny Busick had 83 points in 77 games, scoring 36 goals. Craig Shepard had his consistent season with 31 counters. Wayne Cashman had 28 goals. Bobby Schmach had 28, while the great Ken Hodge had 25. Brad Park on the back end had 53 points in limited duty with them in 43 games, while Terry O'Reilly hit 20 plus goals again, 50 points in 80 games. Andre Savard, the underrated forward for the squad, had 40 points in 79 games, while Don Marcar caught mostly on the defense, had a strong 36 points in 58 games. Now, Bobby Orr in 10 games had 18 points that year, 5 goals, but he was really missed by the squad. And of course, that year, Gilbert Cheevers and Dave Reese shared duty. Gilbert 33, 18, and 10. Jerry was 8, 2, and 5, while Dave Reese was 7, 5, and 2. Now, the playoffs made it to the second round. Ratelle led all players with 16 points in 12 games. Now, the idea about Boston that year, they were trying to move in quite a few players and had great success with the rookies and the veterans. Now, Jack Adams Award, Coach of the Year, went to Don Cherry. Later, big memorial trophy won by Jean Ratelle, while Brad Park was the NHL First Team All-Star on defense. Now, that 75-76 season was quite interesting because, again, this is where Montreal rose to prominence, bet the Flyers in the final, and that would have been another Montreal-Boston series, but Philadelphia knocked off Boston in the semifinals in 5 games. Now, Boston had a very tough opening round series against LA that year. So tough, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people feel that the Kings were ripped off in the series. Now, Boston won the opening game 4-0 with the Kings at the Garden, won a strong overtime game in Game 2. Now, the Bruins went to LA, split the 2 games there, came back from Game 5, where Boston won again 7-1, and then the Kings facing elimination won 4-3 in overtime, and Boston on the backs of their third shutout of the series won the set with a 3-0 final win. Now, the Flyers and Bruins was a very interesting situation, ladies and gentlemen, because they had fought together in the playoffs just a couple of years before for the 74 title. The Bruins won the opening game at the Spectrum 4-2, and when the worm had turned, when the Flyers won 2-1 in overtime in Game 2, 5-2, 4-2, and 6-3 the rest of the way. So, kind of a, like I said, kind of a tough go. But the Esposito trade was the key one that probably changed more fortunes to everybody. You got to understand, Esposito was coming off the 72 Canada Cup, the 74 situation, and also playing for Canada, the inaugural Canada Cup in 76. And also played at the World Championship in Vienna in 77. Now, in 75-76, he was traded because he did not relinquish his playing time, even with his age. He and the great Carol Vandy, the former SEAL and Canadian, were traded to the New York Rangers on November 7th in exchange for Brad Park, Joe Zanussi, and Jean Ratelle. The trade was monumental. as Esposito was still a great scorer, but Ratelle was a skilled center, and Park was arguably the second best defenseman in the NHL behind Bobby Orr. Now, he did help the Rangers to the Stanley Cup Finals in 79, but two marquee players for one is not a good trade. Esposito and John Ratelle, obviously, Ratelle didn't have as many points as Esposito, but Esposito was a 10, Ratelle was a 9, and of course, Brad Park was a situation where he was going to be a quarterback for Boston, and the team just insurance that Orr wouldn't come back. But what I really stood out about the 75-76 season, Boston could have easily made it to the Stanley Cup Finals that year, but not having trading Esposito, a money player, and not having Bobby Orr really hurt them in the playoffs. So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Boston was a top three team from 1968, technically, to 1976, and you only won two cups. And this was kind of the last gasp of the Bobby Orr, again, Esposito era, and, Cashman and all that. It became a more defensive team afterwards, but they went from high rolling offense to strong 30 goal a year, or 20 goal a year player defense. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of the 1975-76 Boston Bruins, a unique year in hockey history as well. It's kind of weird how it goes about. I thought that maybe Phil would be traded back to his former team in Chicago because Tony was there, or maybe to the Maple Leafs or even like a West Coast team, but it never panned out. It seemed Rangers were longtime rivals of Boston, especially after the 72 series in the final, and it just seemed kind of a weird fit, but it is what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing, our vintage podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.